Well, yeah, I don't change the status, but yours status definitely didn't change. Let's see, why is it? You obviously can hear me.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can't see you.
Yeah.
Is it not letting you do video again?
I don't know. Let's see.
I can hear clicking.
I'm trying to. I don't ever use Skype for anything better. So it's like starting over for me.
I don't have Yahoo installed on the machine you're on right now.
I don't use Yahoo either. I don't use.
Are you a hermit? Are you a hermit? Are you a hermit tech?
No, I don't. I have plenty of people here to talk with versus on the internet state. Automatically receive video.
Are you on your Mac or Windows 8?
Oh, this is Windows 7. I don't ever use my Mac for this stuff.
Okay, I have a head. Lean back a minute.
Well, my video screen shows the whole thing. It shows the whole...
Yeah, I'm just trying to center your shot. Hold on. Okay, now we have a head. Are you frozen? Okay. I thought you were frozen for a minute. God, I swear it freezes. I just know. So what's been going on with you besides being way too fucking busy for the last 4 months?
That's it. That too much to say because it's been busy. Yeah. Lots of family. I mean, I had in-laws with me. Everything. The house was full for months. So yeah.
The computer's like, I was full too. They wouldn't leave me alone. So what the heck do we want to talk about?
Let's see here.
I just started throwing shit in a little bit ago. It's been forever. I like picked my head up from under the rock recently because I've been busy with 8 kinds of bullshit myself. Oh, have you talked with Bob?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might want to place your order of Moxie sooner rather than later.
Why? Was he leaving Maine or what?
That's the plan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he's like, before you skedaddle, give me my Moxie.
Is this going to be soon?
You might want to place orders before the close of the month.
Oh, jeez. Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to. Because there's a place that sells Moxie here, but geez, they charge like $24 for 12 cans. They're crazy.
Yeah. So you need to stock up for the quarter or the year or however long you can do without cheap Moxie. Alright, do we want to do tech, politics, or just whatever the fuck we feel like? I'm indifferent.
I don't know.
I'm looking through all the stupid shit that's going on. Everybody else is talking about ACA. I really don't want to. The big stories in technology are the NSA, net neutrality, and a wish list for Windows 9. Thank you, Microsoft. Bitcoins, of course, are dominating all over the damn place because since Congress decided to start deciding whether they should make them illegal or not, all of a sudden everybody wants to get in on Bitcoins.
I haven't heard any good news about Bitcoins, though. The last 2 articles I read were laughing at them, I guess.
Well, it depends what circles you're in. The reality is, it's topping a lot of the financial and trader things just because what it did in the last 3 years is went from $5 to $15 a coin to an excess of $800 a coin. There aren't very many things you could have made that kind of return in. So now everybody's acting like they were the guru that foresaw the rise of the Bitcoin. And like, get in while the getting's good, because it's going to do it again. It's going to hit $10,000 a coin. It really, to me, sounds a lot like all the people trying to get you to buy gold and silver and everything else. They're just like, hey, now that the bubble is over.
This must be like a sport for people who want to do math and show trends. That's what Bitcoin seemed like to me. That kind of thing.
The next few years are going to make or break that. It's an interesting idea. It basically passes the buck on the processing fee to the network instead of having the merchants or the payee pay it. So, like if you swipe your Visa card, the store you swipe it with pays a merchant fee charged through a credit card merchant services. PayPal charges a fee out of the buyer. And escrow, usually the buyer pays the fees. I mean, it's about ducking the fee and shifting it around. The way the Bitcoin network does it is the network processes the transaction in exchange for handling that workload and processing and dedicating your runtime to that peer-to-peer cloud processing array. You earn bitcoins or blocks of bitcoins. Now you have to have like oh dear God systems given the current workload and power shown of the network to actually be high enough to earn the coins, but it's an interesting way to get around it because assuming and there's a number of exchange services like BitPay where you don't have to have anything to do for them. It's a credit card. If somebody pays in Bitcoins, they get US dollars or euros or Aussies or whatever the hell they want, and they pay no merchant services fee. It's in the exchange rate between the Bitcoin and the local currency. But the weak point right now is I have half a mind to do an experiment in 2014 to see if I can really survive not earning local dollars, instead earning either Bitcoins or gold or silver or all these other things. If I can do the whole process and only exchange at the last step. That's the bit where that's weak. Yeah, you can get jobs in Bitcoins, but can you get enough that you can actually deal with everything? Because you can't pay for every bill yet. I can't pay everywhere. Granted, there's whole niche stores that are dedicated to this. We're going to free money from the evil governments, which, I don't see happening because either the governments are going to make them illegal or they're going to turn them into a commodity and treat them like gold and silver. So they'll still come under regulation. What bad things did you hear on the news lines, or do you not really keep up with it?
No, the last 2 articles were they were talking about it like, more of the sport and, they're detracting from the seriousness of it, essentially. That was, sometime last year, late last year, probably in November or something like that.
November is when the Senate had their hearings on him. A few months before that, there was a politician in New York trying to get them labeled a terrorist hacker currency, basically make them illegal. He did
it's not a currency. It's a commodity. It's not a currency.
Well, that's what they're debating about. They're like, well, if it's not a currency, then it has.
Wait, there's no debate. That's being silly. I mean, it's. A currency is recognized by the United States as tender. You're not going to go to Bitcoin and take it to your supermarket. Now, you can put money into, investing in Bitcoin and then get a return.
Now you can buy you can buy gift cards in Bitcoin, so depending which supermarket you go to, you might be able to go to your supermarket with Bitcoin.
But okay, so that's just a place facilitating, willing to accept. You could do that with, people buy stuff with gold, little silver, silver or gold, these thin plates and stuff because the person is willing to accept it, but it's not a currency.
Well,
they're just bartering.
No, and that's the thing that's going to be interesting. I think one of the things that's making the Bitcoin stick so dang much is because the financial shake is recent in people's minds, and it's still popular sales pitch to go, are you ready for financial Armageddon? It's coming! Next year! It's like it was coming in 2011, and 2012, and 2013. Now everybody's saying it's coming in 2014. And next year they'll be saying it's coming in 2015 until the next financial Armageddon collapse, whatever the fuck it is. But they'll be saying that as long as that's a good sales pitch. And that's one of the things I think that's really driving Bitcoins right now, because it's, as long as it keeps doing what it's doing.
It's just a commodity investment. I mean, it's like buying peanuts. Okay, peanuts. There was 1 year that peanuts skyrocketed, because of supply and people were investing in it. To try to make this a currency is a whole other, ball of wax, which involves getting in reserve banks around the world, and I mean, to try to make it a competing currency is a far different thing than what it's doing right now.
Well, but it's begun to do that. What I found most interesting.
It's not begun to do that.
No.
It's starting to do that. It's just something to invest in.
It's probably going to wind up gravitating more towards a commodity than a currency for all the reasons you're saying. But starting third and fourth quarter of last year, a lot of forex brokers started allowing you to do BTC-based accounts. And that's going to be developing further in 2014, so you actually be able to trade all the currencies of the world against as that commodity as your standard base instead of your local currency.
Well, if they create a system where people barter with it over, let's say they just say a whole bunch of, it's like accepting American Express or whatever, you get all the merchants or whatever to start accepting it. Then you have you have a credit system.
Yeah, and that's the bit that is a lot of groundwork was done in last year, and that's why Congress took notice of, because between the value in that system beginning to get in place, it's basically almost ready to be used in place of like a Visa.
Okay.
So
they would have to. However, the value of it, has to have some sort of capital emanating from a real currency to assert the value. But as long as there's players.
And the main driver in that is the energy and hardware costs they call it mining the coins. In the same way, the primary thing that drives up metal cost over time is the energy costs. Just because it takes so much to get the resource delivered. And the way the transactions are processed is the mining and is the cryptographic mining and processing of the payments of the network. So that's the way new coins are minted, and they're minted at a rate based on the network that's processing them. So as long as that process is going on, it's going to fluctuate, it's going to be volatile, and it's going to go through several bubbles. I think in the past 3 years, from going from $5 to $15 a coin to over 800, it popped to almost nothing at least 3 times, and then popped back up. So,
it says most countries are saying normal earned income rules apply. Other states reject the label currency, but will collect taxes on Bitcoin. Of course, you'll collect tax.
Well,
it's a commodity. They want to collect any profit.
But most of the governments don't recognize it as a commodity right now. So I have a question for you. Under U.S. tax code, gold and silver are recognized as RIAs. So if you did this little triangle, you get paid in Bitcoins, you buy silver, you sell silver for bitcoins, you buy gold, and you barter and round you go. Where do you owe US dollars tax?
If the U.S. government taxes it, then they're just probably just seeing it as a profit. They're not concerned.
But what I mean is, how do you?
It's never concerned where it comes from. They just they're
Are
you making too much money because I'm taking?
Exactly. But my question for you is, under the U.S. tax code and that little triangle I just described.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't know. I haven't.
Well, yeah, but if let's say you paid me in BTC, and I. I paid you in Bitcoin. Well, that has to translate to your bank account somewhere. Well, no, but technically, depending what I choose to do with the money, it doesn't, and that's one of the things that has the government's concern for the tax
side.
It
doesn't become real, essentially. It doesn't become real, essentially.
Until
you go and buy a product. You go and buy a merchant from a merchant who accepts your Bitcoin, so you never hit your bank for actual liquidity. You would basically you would pay tax via the state level taxes because they still have to report a product being sold to you for whatever amount. So you're paying the tax on it via sales tax.
But that's assuming it's a local merchant, of course.
Yeah.
Not an.
But no, if the federal government, if it's it would be like how the internet was run for many years. Tax-free stuff, right? Just like Amazon had to finally make reciprocity agreements with states over it, this could go on for a long time without paying tax if you're keeping within this Bitcoin network. However, the second that the money hits your bank and you get it audited.
Oh no! The second you cash out Bitcoins for US dollars or for gold and silver that you then sell for US dollars, that's capital gains tax. You have made a return. You owe taxes.
But if this gets to where people are buying,
which you can do,
like what happened with the internet, where there was no taxes on the internet, you'll start seeing states getting involved with it, and also the types of what people are doing with it. The government will probably respond for sure.
Well, and that's what they're starting to take note, because the reality is, starting last year, I started doing work in Bitcoins. And the reality is, I can buy computers, TVs. There's all these little niche marketplaces and shops. On the same token, because of the one-way transaction.
Which vendor do you buy that accepts it?
Well,
is there an online vendor?
Yeah, there are. Let me give you one of the larger hub ones. I mean, just one of the huge big stores is BitcoinStore.com. You know, they have a lot of electronics.
So Amazon overstocking all them or not?
At this time, no. But it's more, at this time, the marketplace for direct transaction and avoiding the currency like I'm talking about, and like you say becomes the tax dodge concern, is niche stores that were set up exactly to do this, basically that they're taking advantage of the exchange rate and the in-between and everything else. You know, they want Bitcoins. or they're using BitPay or some service like that, which admittedly is very easy to integrate into sites, which is the main reason I started doing it, because a lot of people who wanted to avoid merchant services wanted to use BitPay and other things. You know, basically they wanted to shift all the burden of having to deal with transactions from them, the merchant and seller, to the buyer. They said, buyer, take care of it, I'll ship you stuff, which is one of the things Bitcoins does rather well. Now the following bills that I have on a regular basis, I cannot pay in Bitcoins. So if I wanted to work entirely for Bitcoins, I would have to sell out and pay capital gains tax, and that would be food. You know, I don't have a grocery store around here that takes Bitcoins. I can't pay my rent in Bitcoins. I can't pay my electric bill or my internet bill in Bitcoins. Those are bills I'd have to transfer to US dollars to pay. That being said, there's a lot of hosting companies and domain registers. It's possible at this time to run a lot of internet-based businesses purely on Bitcoin, if you wanted to. Now, you wouldn't have as large a customer base because not everybody knows what a Bitcoin is yet. Not everybody has a wallet, has the ability to get Bitcoins. They get a little confused. It's not as easy to charge, but then you have wallets like blockchain that actually are set up almost exactly like a PayPal service, where you can fund your BTC balance simply by buying Bitcoins. And it's it would to the average in person, if a merchant presented them, it'd be like we only take PayPal back in the days when PayPal had to be PayPal funds, way back in the early beginning. Basically, all these payment services are setting themselves up to be the pay exchange intermediaries. But the regulators are taking notice, given the value, the amount of money that's starting to go around. It's estimated to be approaching a multi-billion-dollar, verging on trillion-dollar economy, and the governments are starting to go, wait a minute, are we getting our tax cut of this thing? Is it being taxed? Are we getting some? Is it money leaving our jurisdiction without going through our tax coffers? So it's interesting. Basically, the next year or three is either going to make this thing stick forever as it finds its way into the regulatory circles, whether it likes it or not, or it's going to wind up being an illegal transaction because your government decides they're not taxing it properly, therefore it's money laundering.
Well.
There's the two extremes, and then there's the nonprofit foundation that was set up for the betterment of Bitcoins. I forget its name. They've spent the last year lobbying in the various government regulations to help make sure if regulation gets applied, it isn't crippling. It's just like you're talking about, okay, it's a commodity under the tax code, therefore treated like when you sell gold or silver.
Well, they're treating it like a dividend. You're receiving gains, capital gains from it. So
right, and at this time, because it's not recognized in the tax code in most nations as a commodity, even though it acts a lot like a commodity. Really, until somebody voluntarily chooses to transfer it back, how do you assess the value of the tax owed? How do you assess the gain? Because you don't recognize it under your law. You get what I mean there? I mean, you know the tax code better than me. Your wife works with taxes. Like,
I haven't asked her about that. I mean, but that's what it would. It would probably it's going to either take time or it's when it hits capital gains that they'll go after it. So.
Well, what I'm hoping doesn't happen is somebody's convinced they don't owe taxes because they're doing one of these like money triangles where they're never actually touching U.S. dollars, but they're living in.
That's not ever going to happen. No, because you don't have to touch U.S. dollars. You can own assets like car dealerships and stuff like that, and pay taxes on those.
No, that's what I mean.
Currency.
That's what I mean. Like somebody will load up their house with couches and TVs and computers and other shit, which are taxable assets, but they'll think because they bought them with Bitcoins, which they got.
Yeah.
And I can see.
But it's not a federal level thing. Usually those things are state level taxes, like inventory things and stuff like that. You already paid the tax essentially when you bought the item because they can't do business within a state. I mean, most of these transaction things are state level, unless it's capital gains, which some states also go after too beyond the federal government, but or what the federal government requires, of you. You're still paying tax on any type of consumption transaction.
But can you prove it?
Well, it would be illegal. I mean, the way you would prove it is the product is gone out of your inventory because you've written it off in your taxes.
No, that would be.
The government's going to ask you where to go.
That would be the person that shipped it. I'm talking about the person. Here's one of the ways in which people get audited. Somebody realizes.
Well, you pay for the tax as the consumer because the shipper doesn't want to pay it, so they pass it on to you.
I know that.
Okay, well,
but here's my example. Let's say for 5 years straight, somebody files their federal tax return as having earned $0 US. Yet, during that same time, they buy 5 ski-doos, 3 cars, 8 big screen TVs. You get what I'm going here? And the IRS agent goes, "Hi, for living beyond your means, you're getting a spot on it." And then Bitcoin's coming. I hope that isn't like the way it gets dragged into the Fed through some type of audit like that, because that's a gray area in the tax code right now. But I could see that being the first way it comes through, because the regulators are going to drag their feet and figuring out how things need to go. The government's confused. It doesn't know whether it wants to tax this, fear it, or embrace it. This is going to be interesting. It's things to think about and keep an eye on in the 2014 year.